What is so special about the Milwaukee Admirals culture? And which Milwaukee Admirals player is most likely to accidentally drop an F bomb? Kimberly Bates, Director of Digital Content for the Milwaukee Admirals, shares all that and more in part two of our interview on today's Locked On Predators podcast.
You're Locked On Predators, your daily podcast on the Nashville Predators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Predators podcast, and thank you for making us your first listen of the day. We are your free daily Nashville Predators podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Want to kick off this hallelujah, we made it to Friday episode with a shout out to our Locked On Pred heads, our everyday listeners who tune in to talk Nashville Predators hockey with us. We appreciate your support, and we love that we get to spend a little bit of your day with you. I'm Ann Kimmel. I'm a writer for Penalty Box Radio. I will be joined in just a moment by my partner in crime, Emma Lingen, who covers the Nashville Predators for the Hockey News. Yesterday, we kicked off the first of two episodes in which we talk with Kimberly Bates, the Director of Digital Content for the Milwaukee Admirals. Kim has made a big impression covering a record-setting Admirals season and connecting fans with their favorite Milwaukee Admirals players. On today's show, she's going to share her best advice for someone wanting to get into a career in sports media, and she talks about her initiation into the world of hockey. Before we dive into all that with Kim, want to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by Ultimate Hockey GM. Have you ever dreamed of being an NHL GM and managing your hockey franchise? Well, now you can with Ultimate Hockey GM. It's completely free, and Locked On listeners get a 100% free boost to their franchise when using the promo code LOCKEDONNHL in the game store. To download the game, just visit hockeygm.app or look it up on the app stores. Ultimate Hockey GM, start your dynasty today. What is your best career advice for somebody who, is listening to this, who sees what you get to do and would love to do this? Like, how would you advise somebody to get into this occupation?
Let me just preface that by saying that Anne and I did not go about it the right way.
Nope.
So the fact that you studied journalism and sports and everything, you're already light years ahead of.
We're like,
where
she
we were.
can give a great answer. Emma and I don't have a great answer.
Yeah, we're
give a great answer.
Well, we're Spanish and was it Christian education majors, so we're probably not the best examples, but hey, we did it.
Like, I will kind of go with that, and it's like, doesn't really matter what you major in college. Like, my boss, the VP of communications, Charlie Larson, he was a history major. He had nothing to do with communications or journalism or anything, and now he's, God help him, in charge of writing all of our press releases and media releases and whatnot. So, like, I would just say, I mean, I went to college. I'm bitter about it, obviously, because I'm paying student loans right now, and I'm mad about it. But I mean, to get into the industry, God, it is about who you know, but it's also about what you know. Like I took a chance and took a job in social media that had nothing to do with sports. We were a third-party social media company that we were hired by dental offices and law offices who didn't want to put forth the energy to hire their own social media manager. So we did all the posting for them, but I did it so I could learn kind of the trade behind the job better, and then kind of work my way into sports. And like every job that you apply for is another no that you're going to get, but that no is like one no closer to you getting a yes. And that was hard for me to understand as well. Because I mean, I think most humans don't like rejection. I'm terrified of rejection. And I would get I'd get an email from whatever team I'd apply for, like the Diamondbacks or something, and I would just read the first line, like, "Thank you so much for applying with the Diamondbacks, period, but," or whatever. I'm like, okay, delete that. I don't even want to read the rest. But also, like, if you do find a job in the industry and you realize it is not the job for you, like, that's okay. It took me 2 seasons. I was only with the Cardinals for 2 seasons, And the first season was wonderful. And the second season was probably the worst experience of my life. And like, you don't have to have this like perfect dream job. If you told me 9 months ago I'd be working for a hockey team, I'd laugh in your face. I would never think I'd work for a hockey team. And I more so went into it of, it's not about what I want out of a dream job, it's what I don't want. Like, I went in and learned from my experience with the Cardinals and learned, like, this is not what I want in a job. Like, this is not the leadership that I want. This is not the work culture that I want. This is not, like the environment that I want. And so I kind of took that, and that way you don't have this cookie cutter mold of like, this is my dream job. It's just, this is like, it wasn't what it was last time, so that's pretty good. And then you kind of learn, like, no job is perfect. No job is like sunshine and rainbows, but you learn, like, if the bad stuff from your past job isn't in your new job, then you're doing pretty okay.
Yeah.
I think that's
that.
a great point, because I've had similar experiences where I think that those bad job experiences are just as, if not more valuable, in teaching you, about yourself, about what you're looking for, about what your goals are. Because I think that, like you said, if you hadn't done it, then working for the Cardinals would still be your dream job, probably. But now
100%.
now you know that it's not, and that's good. That's valuable, because you move on to something else. And so I think that's a really good point that you make, is that it's just as much about what you don't want as it is about what you do want. And also, you don't know what you don't know. Like you said, you knew nothing about hockey, but now that you're here, it's like, wow, I wouldn't have even known that this was an option, or that this was something that I could do. So
right.
I think that's a great attitude to have about it.
I always tell my kids that same thing about relationships too. Let me just throw that out there. If you get out of a relationship, you figure out what you don't want. It's like chipping away at marble to get to the statue. Figure out what you don't want, keep that away, and eventually you're going to land your dream job. I think that's such a great perspective. So you are now with the Admirals.
Yeah.
First of all, okay, tell me, what were some of your first impressions of the sport of hockey, since this was your first introduction to the wonderful world of hockey? I was a late in life hockey person too, and it knocked my socks off, but it's a different sport. So what were your first impressions of hockey?
So the first hockey game I ever went to was actually my first game here. I moved here October 19th. Their home opener was October 21st, but my first day was October 23rd. So I went to their home opener, never been to a hockey game before in my life. And I still have this question, and any guy, any hockey player that I talk to, why are we punching each other on the ice? What are we so mad about? Like, that therapy can't fix. Can we just sit down and talk about it? I will never understand the fights. And as much as but I say that, and then I'm up on press row during the games, and I'm like, oh my God, like, get him, like, punch him in the face. Like, I'm bored. Someone hit somebody. So it's like a catch-22. Also, I faint at the sight of blood, even a paper cut. So even as soon as I see like a drop of blood from up top, Charlie has to like kind of cover my eyes, and I just like wait until it all gets chipped off, and then we're good. Like, it's electric. It's so fast moving. And I'm still a baseball fan. Like, that's always going to be my one true love. Like, it was what I grew up on, but I'm just so happy to be a fan of it again, that like I can appreciate the slow game, and I now have such a good and high appreciation of the fast game that hockey is compared to baseball. And you don't have to worry about a pitch clock. You don't have to worry about, you have to worry about overtime in the regular season and then like a shootout, but you don't have to worry about 16 inning games,
Right.
And it's always fast moving. Even if it is the worst game of hockey you've ever seen and it's so sloppy and so like, why are we on the ice? It's still so fast moving, and there's way more going on than, it's a 3-2 count. Oh, he walked him. Next batter. There's a different appreciation for both of it, but I think working in hockey is way more electrifying and like satisfying than I could have ever imagined.
I think it's funny. I don't know. I want to ask you this, because also having worked in baseball before hockey, I still get this question a lot of like, well, which do you like better, baseball or hockey. And for me, I say I'm a lot like you. It's like, well, I can be a fan of baseball again. Now, granted, I'm a Pittsburgh Pirates fan, so fan is,
Hey, you got Paul Skeens. Like I would just
Yeah.
say you're a Paul Skeens fan.
Yeah, but can he hit? I mean, that's what they need.
Yeah,
So
can he hit?
we could have a whole other conversation about that. But the point is, like, as fun as it can be to be a Pirates fan in 2024, but I think that, for me, I say kind of jokingly, but also truthfully that I prefer working in hockey, and people say why. I'm like, well, no rain delays. No rain delays, no extra innings. Like, yeah, at least regular season overtime, you still have a general idea of how long it's going to take. Like, I remember I first started working in baseball when I was in college, and without fail, every single time I was working a game, I was a scorekeeper for my college baseball team. So every time I was working a game and it went to extra innings, it would be like what you were talking about, like one of those 16-inning games. It was always the night before I had like an exam or I had a paper due. It's always the worst possible time. And so I was just like, oh, I hate this. And so it is kind of nice having like a clock in hockey. It helps my anxiety kind of, it kind of brings it down a little bit. But
Yes.
so I'm curious. It sounds like kind of a similar answer for you, but I would like to know your thoughts on, like, for working, baseball or hockey.
Hockey, especially minor league hockey versus minor league baseball. So minor league baseball kind of used to be like hockey, where it'd be like kind of spaced out with very limited days off. Now minor league baseball is Tuesday to Sunday. You're playing the same team. You're in the same city, or the same team is in your city. Tuesday to Sunday.
Wow.
Every team has 2 12-game homestands a season. My first 3-game weekend here with the Admirals, we played Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and our president, John Greenberg, texted me and Charlie and said, hey, you guys worked all weekend, take Monday off. And I said, we only worked 3 games. Like, I got 3 more in me. What are you talking about? And like, off days, I mean, granted, off days are never off days, but like, the fact that we, especially like when they're on the road, they went on the San Diego and Colorado road trip. I'm like, that's like 12 days with only 4 games. What are you talking about? Like, that's insane to me. So from a work-life balance perspective, honestly, did it change anything that I did on my off days? No, because I still just rotted in my apartment and just like debriefed and then went back to it. But I didn't have to do Tuesday to Sunday, work Monday, Tuesday to Sunday, work Monday. Because again, unlike a lot of other people's positions, like I wasn't off when the team was on the road. Like I'm still working, I'm still covering and live tweeting and posting about the road games. So just from that perspective alone, hockey by a million.
Coming up, Kim shares more about her inaugural season with the Admirals, including the challenge of learning all that hockey jargon. Today's episode is brought to you by Ultimate Hockey GM. Have you ever dreamed of being an NHL GM and managing your hockey franchise? Do you think you could run the Predators better than Barry Trotz? Well, your dream can come true, and this game is most definitely for you. Manage every strategic aspect of your team, play through the seasons, and lead it to glory. Hire the right coaches and staff, trade players or draft picks, navigate free agency and the draft, all in a challenging and realistic game world. As a Preds fan, you know there is no off season. GMs are constantly making moves at every point of the year to improve their team's chances. And that's why you're going to love this game. Ultimate Hockey GM is completely free and playable offline. Play on the go as you want and when you want to. By the way, Locked On Network listeners get a 100% free boost to their franchise when using the promo code LOCKEDONNHL in the game store. So make sure to check it out. To download the game, just visit hockeygm.app or look it up in the app stores. Ultimate Hockey GM, start your dynasty today. one of the things that people talk about just kind of almost in jest about hockey players is that they tend to maybe have more subdued personalities than in other sports, maybe not as gregarious. Now, I understand that you hang out with Zachary LaRue, so this may not be your personal
He's
experience.
the outlier.
He's the outlier. What a delightful outlier, by the way. He's so delightful to
Wonderful.
me. But do you find, like, what have you found as you interact with hockey players? And is it a challenge? Do you find it more challenging to kind of pull them out in general compared to other athletes and other sports that you've worked with?
I would say it's easier. I think hockey players have such, I mean, obviously it depends on the person, but generally speaking, I think they have more depth to them. I'm going to get, if any of my baseball friends see this, they're going to be like, Kim, what the heck? They have more depth to them, but in a sense of like, yes, baseball players, they've been playing travel ball. They started with T-ball when they were 4, travel ball, whatever. A lot of these hockey guys have lived away from home since they were 14, 15,
Yes.
16, you know, and they grew up really early, right? And that was something I didn't understand when I started, but these guys just have the craziest stories and the most fun stories, and hockey jargon and hockey slang and hockey talk is so different. I don't even know if baseball has its own talk. Like, it's just what it is. But like, one of my first days here, like Charlie had to walk me through, like, okay, we call helmets buckets, we call skates wheels, we call this that. And I'm like, why can't you just call it a skate? And he's like, it's just not what it is. Like, I'm thinking of like a blade on a skate, they just call it steel. And I'm like, it's a blade. And they're like, no, you don't understand. Like, and I don't understand. Baseball is baseball, right? But hockey is its own world that is so unique compared to other sports that I think like is probably the only sport, one of the only sports I would think, unless like I'm maybe soccer too. They just have a word for everything. Whereas like I'm thinking football, they call it helmets. They don't call it a weird name. Like they just call it football helmet. Whereas here
Right.
it's a bucket. And so
And
that,
sometimes it'll be like a nickname for the nickname. They'll call it like
yes,
Bucky, and it's like, okay,
yes.
it's like
Yeah, okay, can we
bucket
just
Bucky.
stay with
Yeah,
one? I'm already behind and you're way losing me here.
yeah.
So, and I think that like depth to the hockey culture goes into these guys. And so like, yes, some of the vets are harder to pull out their personalities because they're just older, you know, I think they're not like the rookies aren't serious, but it is a generational thing, I think. But with baseball, like they're all kind of the same. Like if you can talk to one baseball player, you can probably talk to all of them. Whereas like hockey, especially, and it's different based on team culture.
True.
You know, we've got like a little secret society of all of the AHL admins, and we all talk about like our different team cultures, and they're so vastly different. It's a culture that needs to be studied.
Hockey is like its own world. Like,
Mhm.
and you feel, once you've been on that side of it, you feel privileged. Like you've been in,
Yes,
like accepted into that world. And
like
I
a
like,
hazing.
yeah,
Yes.
and it's like,
Yes.
and it's like you've been initiated, you know, and
Yes.
like I didn't necessarily feel that working in baseball. Again, not that I didn't feel accepted or didn't feel included, but it was more just like it didn't feel like its own world as much as hockey does. And now it's like it is funny because then you go and try and talk to normal people, non-hockey people about it, and they're like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thankfully, the
Hockey's
guys are
expiring.
so patient and they will like, if they just see a look on my face, they're like over explaining it. I'm like, okay, bless your heart. Like you know, I'm not dumb, but I'm hockey dumb a little bit.
it's always humbling. Like I like your, again, because I'm not, you know, I've been in hockey for a while, but then sometimes 22-year-old Luke Evangelista will say a sentence and half of the words are words I've never heard. And I'm like, okay, look, I know I'm significantly older than you, but like it can't just be about age, right? Because you're making me
Yeah.
feel like really old right now.
Yeah.
And then I realized it's like, no, I just like, yes, I'm part of the hockey culture now, but I didn't grow up in it, you know, like I kind of came into it as an adult. So it's, yeah, it's funny to hear you say that. It's definitely true.
do you have a game or a memory or a moment from this past season of just something that you enjoyed being their first person for?
So I don't have any other teams to compare this to, like Admirals teams in years past, but I will take the guys' word for it when they say that this team was just so special and so close and so just dialed in and bought into each other that, after every one of those 19 wins in a row, like those guys, like you see guys celebrate, but these guys genuinely loved each other.
Yes.
And like on any off day, they were always all together. It wasn't like little cliques where they'd pair off. They were always at like one of the vets' houses and like hanging out, having like a gathering of all of them, including all of their kids and stuff. But just seeing the connection and the love that they have for each other, I think that was what made it more heartbreaking, like that the season was ending, because like this team was magic. Like, and I use that word very like firmly because like there was something so magical about this team that like you saw them on the ice and just how well they blended together. And after every win, they're jumping on each other and celebrating. And, like there's Troy Grosnick getting setting an Admirals record with the 14 wins in a row. I think it was originally 13. We tied the record, and then he broke it, and we broke it at home. And I don't know how much you guys know about Troy Grosnick. He's from Brookfield, Wisconsin. So he's a hometown guy. And you just get chills every time they say his name in the lineups because everybody cheers for everybody. But man, this crowd roars for Troy Grosnick. And then seeing him break that record at home was just like, ooh, I got goosebumps now just thinking about it. And then you've got Cal O'Reilly setting the Admirals all-time scoring record. Like he started his career with us 18 years ago. And then he gets a 1-year deal with us this year and like sets a record that like he's going to be up in the rafters. And it's just like those things that are just so unique to this team that like I don't think other than us like going all the way and even being in the championship series, not even like winning the cup, but just being in the championship series, that is the only way that this season could have been any better for my first season. There was so much magic happening this season that was probably the most heartbreaking thing when it ended is like the carriage turned into a pumpkin. I have to like just be so thankful every day that I took this job and they saw it in me too and wanted to bring me aboard and be part of this team because you felt like you were part of it. Like front office felt like they were part of it.
To wrap up our conversation with Kim, we're going to play a game of rapid fire questions. She's going to tell us which Admirals player is most likely to swear, and she tries to describe Yaroslav Askarov in just one word. Not an easy assignment. Today's episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. That's the formula for winning championships, and it's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay's guaranteed fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay guaranteed fit only available to U.S. customers. Who is the player most likely to swear this past season?
Zach LaRue.
Okay.
That seems pretty on brand. Probably
the amount of times I have to bleep him out on TikToks, Zach LaRue.
Zach LaRue. But he's so precious doing it. You almost just can't care.
I know. I'm just like, I just want to leave it in. It's so adorable. Like, just let him say the F-bomb. Just come on.
Yeah. Yeah. Who's the funniest guy on the team?
Zach LaRue.
I love that. Who on the team or staff would you most want to sit down and do an in-depth long interview with?
God. Honestly, Cal O'Reilly. He's just got such a crazy career. I would love to talk to him about it. And it's got to be so interesting, right? Like, yeah, I'd say Cal.
Yeah. Love those O'Reilly boys.
I know.
Just interesting guys.
Yeah.
Very important question and related to a previous episode that we had here on the show. Would you trust Spencer Stastny to do your taxes for you?
I would trust Spencer Stastny to take care of everything of my life, including my cats, which are my sweet baby angels. So if he can do my taxes, then that's a cherry on top.
Yep.
He is
Here
like
are
the
my
most trustworthy person.
Yes, I just want to like hand him my W-2 just when I look at him.
Take
I'm
my
like,
credit card number, even social security number. Sure, just steal my identity. I don't care. I trust you.
Yeah,
Done.
I would trust him. Okay, that's good. That's good. Then my judgment seems on par.
Correct.
Then,
yes.
So that's good. Okay, good.
I like that.
Yes.
All right. Have you ridden on the pirate ship?
No, I've never been on a Zamboni or anything. I probably should.
The pirate ship is incredible.
Yeah, it's and Bleacher Report took your video. That's freaking rude.
Yep.
Thieves.
Sure did.
You've heard it here first. It was Anne's first.
Yep.
Straight from her phone.
Who's got your favorite nickname on the team? Because everyone's got a nickname in hockey.
So I'm going to be biased on this because it's my nickname, but it is Zach LaRue. And I've got a little story on this. This is not rapid fire, obviously, but when I started, I didn't know that hockey players had all these nicknames. Usually in baseball, it's just their last names. Like,
yeah,
it's what it is. So I was asking people what their nicknames are. Like, what was their preferred nicknames for social media? And I asked Zach, like, what would be your preferred nickname? He's like, well, the guys call me Z or like whatever else they call him. But he's like, you can call me Happy. And I was like, Happy? He was like, yeah, call me Happy. I was like, okay, great. Because LaRue means the happy one in French, which is like such a unique nickname.
Interesting.
And that really came to fruition with me because we were the only people that called him Happy, not his previous teams, nothing. It was us. And it was after the game that we knocked Grand Rapids out of the playoffs. No, it was after we knocked Texas out of the playoffs. We reverse swept them. And the crowd was chanting Happy as he was coming off the ice. And that was just like such like a, they listen to me, they follow us on social. They listen to me. Like, it's just, yeah. So that is my biased favorite nickname. Yeah. And it rang true. I mean, this was before I got to know him, and he's the happiest freaking guy on the team. Like, and I always ask him, like, why are you always so happy? And he's like, I get to play hockey for a living. Like, yeah, I'll get pissed off sometimes, but like, I'm a kid playing a kid's game for a living. How can I be mad? And I'm like, okay, well, put that in a little box and keep that, okay? Because that is like the best answer you could have ever given me. But
I like Happy too. It's like, again, everyone has a nickname. Like, they gave me a nickname. Like, everyone has one. But there are some I think that are just better or more creative or better than others. Like when the Predators played the Vancouver Canucks in the playoffs, and Quinn Hughes' nickname is Huggy. And every time they said that, I'm like, that's freaking adorable. Like, I can't root for him, but like, that's one of my favorite nicknames I've ever heard.
Yeah.
So like,
It's so great when they don't do the SY. Like, sometimes I'm like, you all are better than just like when John Hines was here, Hinesy.
Yeah.
We're better than that as a sport, y'all. We can do better.
Reed Schaefer's, I kind of spun this a little bit because he sarcastically told me to call him the big red dog. Okay. And I was like, you better be freaking careful. And so I've been calling him Clifford. And as soon as I call him Clifford on social media, people will respond and say like the big red dog, GAWG. And I'm like, dude, that just is so good. Like, it's so, and like you see him and like how quiet he is. And you're like, he would never. But he sarcastically told me that one day. And I'm like, should have known.
Don't put it out there if you can't.
Don't put it out there.
I'll be honest with you. I was surprised when you said that he chirped you the most, because I mean, my only real extended experience with him was at the rookie tournament in Florida last year. But then again, he was new to the organization, like he was young, and
He's a
I don't know.
rookie. He's
Yeah.
quiet.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he was so quiet. And so I was like, "Really?" when you said
he
that.
chirps me probably the most, I'd say. I mean, him and Zach together, so they're roommates. So I mean, I think Zach will like for sure rubbed off on him and getting him out of his shell and whatnot. But I think, yeah, I'd say Reed is the one who has absolutely chirped me the most. Yeah.
If you had to describe Yaroslav Askarov in one word, how would you describe him?
I don't know if I have one word for him. There's like not one word that would like completely encapsulate him. He's funny, he's quirky, he's sassy in like a weird, like adorable way. Like he's so sweet, he's kind, he's so smart. Him and Svetch told me that they're done speaking English to me and that I need to learn Russian because they're only going to speak Russian to me now. So the sass that came off with that, I was like, well, fine. Like the only words that they taught me were Russian swear words, but I'm like, well, I guess that's all I need to know to communicate with you guys. But yeah,
Well,
exactly.
Askey did drop an S-bomb at training camp in one of his media availabilities. So like
that was amazing. And
we
then
all
an English S-bomb or like a Russian S-bomb?
like an English S-bomb. And we're all just kind of, it's long days at training camp. We're all just kind of sitting there. He's like the fourth player we've heard from that day. Yeah. And we're like all kind of looking down. And then he just said that he was like, stuff happens. And we were all like,
what?
Did he say that? We're like, did he just say that? We all just kind of looked at each other like, oh, okay.
And he just sort of giggled.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, you have completely won over the media.
Yep.
With just two simple words, friend.
Yep.
He's wonderful. But you get him and Igor and Svechi together, and my God,
I love
that
it.
is a Russian trio.
We need a reality show in all of your spare time away from the job that actually is a 24/7 job for you, Kim. If you could throw together that Russian trio into a reality show, 100% here for that.
I probably have it on all the videos I've done with them, like all the bloopers, like where they just walk out together and they just like pose together for me, or they walk in together. Like they know what they're doing, and
it makes me wish that Yakov Trenin was still here. I love Yak, but he was like Father Russia to them. Like when they were here over the summer for rookie camp and training camp, and they all lived with Yak, and I think it was Svetch who called it. He's like, yeah, it's big Russian party. I was like, I would watch that show.
It was a fabulous first season for you to jump on with them on the ice. But I just want you to know, Kim, it was a fabulous first season for everybody who followed the Admirals online. Really and truly, you have done such a great job connecting fans, I know, here in Nashville with the Milwaukee Admirals and kind of helping us get to know these players in the pipeline. So I just want to wrap this up by saying thank you. Thank you for being so fun online. Thank you for kind of pulling the curtain back for all of us on these great guys that we have in Milwaukee, and enjoy the very brief, short off season that is your job.
Thank you. I think I'm probably one of the very few people that will ever say this, but I hate the off season and I want hockey back like right now.
Yep.
I need the adrenaline. I need the competition. I need the fun. Like
Emma, and I want to thank Kimberly Bates for joining us and pulling back the curtain on one of the most interesting jobs in sports and helping us to get to know some of these Milwaukee Admirals players just a little bit better as well. Be sure that you are following the Milwaukee Admirals on social media at MKE Admirals. Make sure you're also following our podcast on social media at LO_Predators and subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. That's going to keep you up to date on all things Nashville Predators and Milwaukee Admirals. That's going to do it for this week at Locked On Predators. Thank you for making us your first listen of the day. We're going to be back on Monday with an all new episode. We hope you have a great weekend. We'll see you then.